everybody. So today we are going to be talking about persona charts and how you can use them, kind of how I use them. I've worked with them. I've known about them, worked with them, fucked around with them for quite some time now, but I've recently started implementing them even more into practice because I've started doing actual galactic center readings, galactic grand cross readings. You can find those on my website, by the way, because I know that I've recently had some people hire me to do some work, some hybrid work, and it's been galactic center or galactic grand cross focused. So I've decided to offer this service on my website. So we'll talk a little bit about the persona charts in that way and just kind of what they are in general. But before I get to that, I want to make mention also about the galactic center, that I have a new galactic grand cross questionnaire. The old one that I had for about a year and a half, it only focused on the galactic center and the galactic anti-center. This new one that I have focuses on the whole galactic grand cross. That is the galactic center, the galactic anti-center, the super galactic center, and blank space, or whatever opposes the super galactic center. So if you have planets conjunct any of those in your chart, and you would like to do the questionnaire, you can email me at saturnseason@gmail.com. and I'll shoot it over to you. Just let me know that you want it. And the other thing I wanted to mention, there probably won't be as many videos this week because I did a video, or not a video, it was a podcast episode with Elle of Stellar Sanctum. And this video should be uploaded. It should have been uploaded on August 1st. I believe that's when they said they were going to upload it. I will put the link to the Cosmic Quest podcast on Spotify in the description box, so you can check it out because it was a lot of fun about transiting asteroids. It was pretty cool. I enjoyed my time with them very much. So do check that out. But without further ado, let's talk about persona charts. Let me go ahead and share the screen. Okay. So on astro.com, you'll go to the extended chart selection. And you'll go to where your data is put in. And you'll go to down here where it says chart type. You will go to persona chart. And you'll click show the chart. Now, as you can see, you can on astro.com, you can pull the one for all of these, the persona chart for each of these. And essentially how the persona chart is calculated, and we'll pretend here for a second that this is my natal chart. Essentially how the persona chart is calculated is when the transiting sun throughout the first year of life makes its way around the wheel, it will conjunct natal planets, right? It'll conjunct natal Mercury, it'll conjunct the natal sun, it'll conjunct the natal angles, it'll conjunct the nodes, it'll conjunct asteroids, all of the shit. So when that happens, like when the transiting sun is conjunct Mercury at 24 degrees Capricorn, 55 minutes and 11 seconds, that date and time is how you find the persona chart. Like here, it'll give you the date of that. So like here, this is my moon persona chart for my natal chart. That happened on the 6th of January, 1988 at 9:37 p.m. And they have it set to Houston because that's where I was born. So it'll calculate that. So if you're wanting to look at, say, like an asteroid that isn't on this list or something that isn't on this list, you would look like, let's say you wanted to look at, I don't know, Hecate in your chart, the persona chart for Hecate. You would look at where Hecate is in your chart and see when the transiting sun throughout your first year of life was conjunct exactly natal Hecate in your chart, and that date and time would be when you would calculate the persona chart, what you would calculate the persona chart for, and you would use your location that you were born, your location of birth. For the place. And what persona charts do is they essentially, like, okay, the natal chart is your natal chart, and you need to keep this in mind as you're looking at these, right? Because your natal chart is always your natal chart. But you know, sometimes you might have, I'll go to my natal chart for just a second. Like you might have, I don't know. Sometimes you might have some questions about how a specific planet might function. Like, I don't know, like Jupiter in my chart, for instance, that's my chart ruler. It's actually an important one. I think an important one to look at the persona chart for if you're just fucking around with shit, taking a look, seeing what's up. I think the chart ruler is an important one to look at. I think the moon is an important one to look at. I think the nodal axis is important to look at. I mean, I think they can all be valuable to look at, for sure. But those might be the first ones that I would kind of fuck with. Um, but let's say, like, I don't know, like, let's say I wanted to go deeper with my Jupiter, you know, I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about how it functions. I can already see that there's like, there are trines to the ascendant and to Saturn and to Venus and Uranus, right? There's a square to the moon. There's a very loose opposition to Mars. It's retrograde, you know, it's in the fourth house, it's in Aries. So there are, you know, I already know these things about it, but let's say I really wanted to go deeper with my chart ruler. What you would then do is go to this, and then go down to Jupiter, hit go. And looking at this persona chart will allow you to go even deeper into the persona of the planet, or the personality of the planet. So you have to keep in mind that this is not a natal chart when you are looking at it. You can read it like a natal chart, but you have to keep in mind that this is the personality of a planet, not of the person themselves. That makes sense. So, you know, just kind of, and I think you can, I mean, you could totally like delineate the entire persona chart. I don't think that you have to. I think that you kind of take a look at it to get an idea pretty quickly. Like, you know, I see that the sun for the persona sun in the Jupiter persona chart is in the fifth house. It's in Aries. So the creative self-expression of Jupiter is very important. This needs to be independent. This needs to be fearless, pioneering, all of these sorts of Aryan things, right? The ninth house, for instance, that's expansion, understanding, higher learning, all of these kinds of things, done in bold ways, right? Proud ways, bright and shiny ways. I think of Leo as bright and shiny, Leo energy. So the ninth house will then flow into the sun in the fifth in Aries. So like perhaps the Jupiter's understanding of things in bold ways, Jupiter's expansion of things in leader-like ways, needs to flow into Jupiter's need to express itself, to take risks even, in independent and fearless kinds of ways. I'd also want to look at the moon in the persona chart. Obviously, the moon in the persona chart, Jupiter persona chart, is squaring the sun. So, and the moon is in Capricorn, like in my natal chart. So there's kind of this sense of tension between the emotional core of Jupiter and the way Jupiter wants to express itself. This actually does fit. This does feel like this fits for me because Jupiter is my chart ruler. I can totally feel that, for sure. That's definitely relevant. But my point is, I think you can do this somewhat quickly. I mean, you could sit there, like I said, and delineate the entire fucking thing if you wanted to for each fucking persona chart. But I don't think that you have to do that. I think just kind of taking a look and getting a quick look at maybe what's going on in it. You know, like the chart ruler in the persona chart with Sagittarius rising is Jupiter, in the fifth house in Taurus. So Jupiter being able to come at the world in a creatively expressive way, but in a stable way, right? Stable creative self-expression, does fit, and it actually really fits for me too, because while I do like to creatively express myself, I do like it to be in a stable way, you know, or as stable as possible. Yeah. So I think that these things are very, very cool to look at. I'm going to go and stop sharing the screen for a second. I think these things are really, really cool to look at. I think they're really, really useful to look at. I think you can totally just look at them fucking around and like just kind of seeing what pops up for each planet. Again, I would definitely look at things like the chart ruler, the moon. I like to look at the nodes, anything like that, any of those. But you could totally look at them for any planet. And, you know, I have implemented them before in the past when somebody like came to me for a reading specifically about like a certain planet. Like they were just really, really curious about a certain planet. That does happen sometimes. Or somebody just really wants to dive into their fucking moon, or they really, really want to dive into their Venus or whatever. Persona charts can be totally cool to bring into play with these too, with requests like that. Another cool way that I think to bring them in and tying this kind of to the galactic center and things having to do with that. Because recently I have had people that have reached out wanting hybrid readings dealing with the GC and with the Galactic Grand Cross, which is why I have started offering this service on my website, because it has become a more common request. And it was earlier this year, before I ever really started doing this, that I was fucking around with the GC and I was like, you know, because the planets conjunct the GC, there is a wild card quality to them. There is. So like reading them like a regular planet doesn't always make any sense. It doesn't. So it was earlier this year and I was sitting there fucking around with GC stuff and I was like, bitch, look at the persona chart for these planets conjunct the GC and conjunct the super GC and fuck even conjunct the galactic game sister and blank space. Like fucking look at the persona charts. So I've started doing this for planets conjunct the GC and other places in the Galactic Grand Cross. And it's been wildly helpful, like wildly fucking helpful, and kind of nailing down, because those planets there, they can function so differently. It really has been helpful in kind of nailing down how those planets might actually function. Even though there's still a wild card quality to them, I do think that it helps to make that wild card quality make more sense. So I have definitely started implementing them in actual practice this way too. Also with out of bounds planets, out of bounds planets in a natal chart, they are not under the sun's domain, meaning they can kind of function and do whatever the fuck they want, which also makes them wild cards. They can kind of function however they please. And an out of bounds planet is any planet with a declination above 23 degrees, 26 minutes. For some reason, I always want to invert those. This is stupid. But 23 degrees, 26 minutes of declination. So take a look on the additional tables on astro.com when you pull your natal chart, and you kind of see when you go to the additional tables, there'll be a table that says declination. You can see if any of your planets are out of bounds. If they are, I strongly recommend that you take a look at the persona chart for the planets or planet that is out of bounds or that are out of bounds, because it'll give you another idea, a better idea as to how those, how that planet or how those planets might function. I have 3 out of bounds planets, so I've definitely looked at the persona charts for those, and most of the planets having to do with the Galactic Grand Cross in my chart, though I really haven't dived too much into Chiron opposing it yet. I haven't been ready to do that, but if I'm honest, but yeah, I totally recommend doing this. I think it's a really cool thing to bring into practice. I do know that this is something that not everybody probably fucks with or uses or thinks is useful. I'll just tell you flat out, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. So if you have opinions about it that you don't like them or don't care, I don't give a shit. Go tell somebody else. For anybody that is interested, I definitely strongly recommend messing with them and playing around with them. And if anybody is interested in having me really dive into a specific planet in your chart because you want to, or if you got out of bounds planets and you like really want to know more about how they function, let me know. Or if you've got planets conjunct something in the galactic grand cross and you want me to dive into that, let me know, because these are all things that I do definitely do. Yeah. So definitely play around with it. Let me know if you all do play around with it, with stuff in your chart. Let me know what you find if you feel like sharing. Otherwise, I will put where you can find me below. And I will see all of y'all later.